Good morning. It is Sunday, April 27th. I cannot believe we are at the end of April. That is insane to me. This was a really good month. It just kind of flew by. I'm doing my Sunday reset right now. I just got back from the farmer's market. I was at the farmer's market early. I was in the car like 7, it was before 8 o'clock. Actually got there before the market opened. And they ring a bell when the market starts. It starts like officially at 8:30. Technically, they're not supposed to start selling until 8:30, but some people will sell. Dang, I wanted to get an empanada. Shoot. I totally forgot about that. That's okay though, I didn't need it. I ended up getting a pie. Ended up getting a pie and a cookie. I got a chocolate chip cookie and I got a mini apple crumble pie. That's what it looks like. Which now I'm kind of regretting. I don't regret the pie, but they also had a cherry pie and I kind of wanted that too. But I'm a sucker for like apple crumble. So this looked really good. I just wanted to turn the camera on while I wash some dishes. I just vacuumed and cleaned the bathroom a little. Yeah, it's been a full day already and it's just 11:16. I've had a pretty full morning because I went to the farmer's market, then I went to the regular grocery store. I just needed to pick up a couple things and then came back home, did a couple of like admin things that I needed to take care of on my computer. And right now I'm chilling. After I wash these dishes, I'm gonna do a job search. I finished a book last week. Was it last week? I think it was last week. I read a book called, let me actually show it to you because it was a really pretty book and it was really good. This is the book. Look at how beautiful this is. I had no idea what this book was about when I picked it up. I just saw a black lady in a field of flowers and that called to me. And then I saw this beautiful, like the artwork around the perimeter of the book, which I've never really seen. I went to Barnes & Noble a couple of weeks ago and I did see a couple of other books like this, but this is not something that I've like seen. You know, I've never really seen books that have this artwork, so I guess publishers are doing this now. It's really pretty though. Anyway, this book was so good. I was taking notes and got my little sticky tabs and stuff for parts that I want to revisit. I got through it surprisingly fast. Like I have not allowed myself to just like sit and enjoy a fiction book in a while. I read a lot of nonfiction. I read a lot of like self-help and brain science and just like really not always the most exciting. I mean, they're exciting to me because it's stuff that I'm interested in, but this was just a fun, easy read. Maybe not fun. It's not like it's kind of a heavy book. You know, some of the subject matter is not the lightest, but it was a really, really good book and I read it. And this was like my birthday read. I think I read it over the course of like 10 days. I started on my birthday and then finished maybe the week before last week. Really, really good. I got through it super fast. This book has helped catapult me back into reading. And I got a couple of other books when I was at Barnes & Noble a couple of weeks ago. I did like a birthday trip. So I got 2 other books that are going to be summer reads. I started reading one of them. That seems like it's a really like a good summer book. This was a spring book. I mean, it's still spring now, but the other book, the cover just has a very summery look, although this one does too, but whatever. And then I got the third book I got is kind of like a fall book. So I need to start. I already started one of them. Maybe I'll read a little bit today. I forgot how therapeutic reading can be. I would just like roll out my yoga mat, pull out my electric blanket and my like yoga bolster and start reading on the floor because that's been the most comfortable for me. Like sitting on the floor, laying on the floor. I've talked about this before, my little floor bed. Anyway, this past week was packed. Your girl was out being social, networking. It was a really, really good week. Last week was a really good week. I went to a conference. It's been a really good event. I wasn't sure what to expect. It's a bunch of urban planners and people, community members, artists. This was a really great opportunity for me personally because I wanted to get more resources for myself as I'm entering this new chapter in life and trying to figure out what's next, honestly. This is the little container that they were serving breakfast in this morning and they've like packed it up. I think they were doing yoga over here yesterday. It's really cute. One of the sessions that I'm doing right now is on filming, trauma-informed filming, and so we're practicing right now and I am just making this little video And these people are like flying up and down the street. So that's not great. It was just interesting to meet, you know, a lot of people in this area who are like placemakers, and a lot of like local artists and stuff were there talking about like how they build community. It was nice to be amongst like-minded individuals and learn about different resources that I could take advantage of. I learned about some new like academic programs that I'm interested in participating in that are like really, really inexpensive, but that will give me like, you know, certifications and stuff to accompany like what I'm doing right now, like the course that I'm taking. So a lot of educational opportunities. This was the first time that I was out where I had to talk about who I am for real, because this was a pretty like activity breakout group focused event. So a lot of the sessions that I went to, there was ample opportunity to connect with a group and work through a problem, or just like talk about something that was going on in my personal life. So lots of time to like sit over coffee or over lunch to meet new people. And I was really proud of myself for going. It was a really, really, really great program. The turnout was good. I think there might have been like 200 people there. As I've been navigating this space of unemployment, I have been a little nervous about having to introduce myself to people when I like am not affiliated with any organization. You know, when you come into these types of events, people want to know like, oh, hello, who are you? What organization are you with? There wasn't as much of that here, fortunately. I think that helped me feel more comfortable in the space. But I found that when people led with that question of like, oh, what organization are you from? They also were like solo birds, not with any particular organization. There was one woman I sat next to at one of the sessions, and she was very aggressive, like aggressively trying to find out where everybody at the table was from as far as like which organization. I don't really vibe with that type of energy, you know, like I get that's a relevant question in networking settings. I do understand that, but sometimes I just want to sit down and, you know, have a casual conversation, or like just focus on whatever the task at hand is. Or if we're introducing ourselves, just kind of like say, oh, hi, my name is Brittany. Let's work on this task together. And then the rest of it kind of follows. The anxiety I feel of like sitting with new people and then kind of being berated with like, oh, what organization are you from? And it's just like, I'm not with the organization. I was feeling a little weird about that. And I hadn't practiced like what to say necessarily. I did have therapy last week, and my therapist, I didn't tell her that was like a source of anxiety, but we talked about like meeting new people during this time and like how I have been out and, you know, trying to broaden my network and like build a new network, because y'all know I've shared them old people that I was working with. I don't have any interest in going back to that space. I don't have any interest in like connecting with them and like, yeah, the world is small and all of this stuff. But once you start branching out, it becomes a lot bigger. And that's what I'm finding is like, oh, I can actually build a whole another network of people who don't know me from that past position and like are not familiar with any of that work. And it was refreshing being in a space like that, where it's like these people don't know me from a can of paint and they don't know nothing. They only know what I tell them. And it just felt really good to be in that sort of environment. So this lady that I was sitting next to, when she asked me like, oh, which org are you from? And I told her like, I'm just here as a solo individual. And she was like, oh, me too. And her whole like demeanor changed, and she kind of deflated a little. And it was almost like, the way I read it was almost like she felt that she had to compete with other egos at the table, and it really was not that type of an event, right? This was in my last org. There were a lot of inflated egos. It was just that type of environment. And even if you have like a program or like a conference or something, I could expect that there would be people with very inflated egos. And that's not always the best crowd, in my opinion. Like, I don't always feel the most welcome with those individuals. And I don't know, maybe the lady was doing that as just like a defense mechanism, but it was just off-putting. I don't know why, I just thought it was off-putting. And I found myself like gravitating towards the other person, the person that was sitting beside me on the other side, because I'm just like, I don't want to play like the ego game and like, you know, talk about where I'm from or whatever. Anyway, it was a really, really good event. I made some great connections. It actually felt good because I felt so comfortable in the space. It was a 2-day event. The first day when I go to conferences, if it's a 2-day event, I always feel a little nervous because I'm like, okay, especially if I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone. I have to like truly network. Like, the way they had lunch was, it was a networking lunch, but it was like, the stakes weren't high. I've been at some events and it's just like, okay, we're going to do this very regimented networking session, and like, you have to go meet all these people. And this conference did it in a way where it was like, there was some structure, but there was also enough freedom given to participants where like, if you just needed time to be alone and decompress during the lunch break, you could do that. It wasn't required to like, you know, be engaging with other people during the lunch break. And I was guided to sit at a table with 3 other women, and we had such a pleasant conversation. I didn't know who they were before I sat at the table with them, but I had a really, really good conversation. And I felt very comfortable when I was like sitting and having lunch with them, and like our conversation just flowed so effortlessly, and it didn't feel transactional. It felt very like helpful, and I felt comfortable being vulnerable at a certain point. I think by the afternoon of the first day, I felt comfortable being vulnerable in my sessions. And when I was meeting people, to just say like, yeah, I am like, this is who I am. I'm Brittany. I'm in a transitional period in my life, and this is my first event like this with these types of people, you know, focused on this topic. I'm trying to figure out what's next, but like, I also am just a free bird and trying to figure it out right now. And I got so many encouraging words, and just by me saying that and being authentic and being vulnerable in those moments at lunch that first day with those 3 women that I was sitting with, and I shared that with them. I was telling them, like, they were asking like, oh, like, you know, sorry you lost your job, but like, are you applying? Like, do you kind of have a sense of what you want to do? And I told them like, I'm taking a little bit of time right now to truly figure that out, because this is a low-key blessing, high-key blessing also, to like have this kind of time off, because most people don't get that, right? Like, I've been unemployed since January 31st. And like, yeah, people need to work and, you know, earn a living and all of that. But I still just feel that I've had this free time to just figure stuff out, to like go to these events and do these things that I wouldn't normally have been able to do if I was like confined to a full-time job where I have to be in the office and do all of this stuff. And it's just been, I've just felt a sense of freedom that I've been craving. And it was a sense of belonging that I've just not felt in a really, really long time. During the second day, I had some sessions and I was sitting, you know, talking to some of my, some of the folks that were at the table with me. And I was having the same conversation of like, yeah, this is who I am. And I'm in this transition period. And like, I'm starting to, just based on, you know, being in my class right now, and like some of the topics that come up in the class, and like also coming to some events, I'm starting to figure out which parts of this whole ecosystem I'm the most interested in that could potentially be like my next step as far as a job goes, or like a next specialization. Just by like saying that, I got people telling me like, oh, you should look at positions at this organization, or you should look at jobs with this organization. Oh, or this university has a program for like what you just said you want to do, and like not a full master's program because I'm not going back for another degree, but I'm completely open to doing like certifications and stuff like that. And I learned about a couple that are very affordable and that are local and that are completely aligned with like my interests. And it was just a good event. That's all I can really say. I was exhausted by the time I got home on Friday though. I was so drained. I got my little tacos, so they had like a taco, like a food truck. They were supposed to have like a mixer to go into Friday evening, but it got rained out, but they still had like the food truck. So I grabbed my food and I came home. That was the conference last week. I'm so glad that I invested in that conference. This was like a conference I had to pay for. It was so worth it. It was such a good experience. I did some forest bathing, which I've never done. And I was telling the lady who was leading that session, like, oh, this is so interesting because, you know, I want to start learning more about like native plants and like just, you know, plants and stuff outside and being able to identify them. And she was like, oh, she gave me her card and was like, oh, you should come to some of my other forest bathing sessions. So I think I will definitely check those out. Then yesterday I went to an open house for a community garden that actually a community farm that I was thinking about volunteering at. It was a little bit far out, still in the city, but it would just like, it took me some effort to get there. And when I got there initially, yesterday was like a rainy day, so I was a little apprehensive. I found out about this open house Friday evening, and I made a last minute decision to go yesterday on Saturday because this was a place that, you know, somebody else had recommended to me and had told me a little bit about the person that started the farm and all of this stuff. So I was like, oh, this is a farm that I might want to volunteer at, because right now it's a lot of textbook stuff that I'm learning, right? But I need to actually start applying what I'm learning. So like working somewhere outside with plants and doing those types of things would help me just kind of like broaden my skill set. So I was excited for this open house so that I could meet the people that work there and like just figure out if it would be a good fit for me to commit and like volunteer with, right? Like volunteering is free. So I want to make sure that that whatever I'm doing is aligned with me as an individual and my interests, but like also that I feel welcomed there, you know, because that's really important. I'm not about to waste resources and travel across town to go somewhere and then feel like I'm not wanted. So when I got to the farm, I received such a warm welcome from the person that they had working at the front gate, like letting people in, or just like the greeter. I guess she was just like greeting people as they come in. She was very kind and like warm and was asking me like, oh, you know, had I ever been there before? And I was telling her like, no, I haven't. I'm thinking about volunteering here, and I just kind of wanted to check it out, and saw that there was an open house and they had volunteer orientation that I had missed. So I wanted to see if it was even worth me trying to like backtrack and have some individual person that works there do like a off schedule volunteer session for me so that I could sign up to be a volunteer. And she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and was just kind of giving me the lay of the land. She was just very, very friendly. She like handed me off to another volunteer who's been volunteering at this place for like years, and she was very warm and was just like, oh, thanks for coming out, blah blah. We really need new volunteers, like we've got all this land and like we really need help. And so I'm like, okay, cool, like yeah, you know, like I'm checking it out. I may be back. So they had activities set up. They had like somebody showing you how to make like different soil combinations for various plants. They had somebody that was like planting bulbs, like flower bulbs, and like how to do them properly. They had like a little arts and craft section where you could like paint flowers. I was at that session, or I kind of went to that table and started a little canvas painting. I didn't finish it, but I brought it home, so maybe I'll finish that at some point. As I was waiting for my painting to dry, they had like a little coffee demonstration going on, so I went and got me a cup of coffee. They had food out, some really good carrot cake, and I guess all of the stuff that was made was from the farm. So as I was meeting all of these volunteers, they were telling me about the person that runs the farm, like the woman that runs the farm. And they're like, oh yeah, you gotta talk to so-and-so. Like, yeah, she's over there. Like, yeah, she started all of this. It's so great. Like, we need lots of volunteers, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, cool, I'm excited to meet this lady. I have a mutual, or like somebody that I had a conversation with. I don't know if y'all remember, a few months ago. It was like probably like a week or two after I got laid off. I think I mentioned on the channel that I had a conversation with somebody that had done some work. Sorry, I'm just cleaning the sink out. That had done some work in the space that I was like potentially interested in entering, and like she was really helpful and was giving me all these resources, and like resources in the form of like organizations and people that I might want to connect with at some point. And she was like, you know, was just encouraging me to be intentional about it, because some of the people that she had referenced are a lot busier, you know, than others. And this was one of those people. And she was like, yeah, this person, she has this really great farm or whatever, but she doesn't have a lot of time to like just like have casual like check-ins or whatever. So if you wanted to connect with her, it would have to be something very intentional, which I totally get, right? People are busy, they're running organizations, like I totally understand that. And I wasn't trying to like connect with the lady like that, but I figured since it's an open house and it sounds like y'all desperately need volunteers, and I'm here to like scope things out and like get the lay of the land, I want to meet the person that's in charge before I decide if I'm going to give my time and energy to your cause. I done had this like yummy food, had this coffee, had all these really great interactions with the volunteers. I get over to the person that like leads the whole farm, and I was like kind of lingering because, you know, a lot of people were going up to her and talking to her and like just saying hello. When she was like free and didn't have anybody talking to her, I went up to her and like introduced myself and was just asking her, you know, about the farm. And I had mentioned to her when I was introducing myself that like we kind of had a mutual. I mentioned the person's name and I was like, yeah, I had this conversation with this person, and she told me, she really encouraged me, like, check your farm out, and said that you'd been doing some great work. And so I paused because I was hoping that it would be a conversation, right? And when you're having a conversation, you don't just talk, you build in points to pause so that the other person can chime in, right? So after I paused and I realized she was not gonna like speak to me, the lady like literally just like stood and just like with a stone face said nothing to me. So I was like, yeah, I was thinking about possibly volunteering. And I just met, I think I told her like, yeah, I just met some people and they were like really helpful or whatever, and said they really enjoy volunteering. And she was like, oh, there's a volunteer sign up sheet up at the front. And I said, oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I was gonna take a picture. And then I asked her like how long she'd been doing this. And she told me when they opened. And I had a plate of food. You know, I had just had some food. And so I told her like, the food is really good. And she was like, yeah, that's why we do this. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I kind of just like, this was like me. I don't know. I couldn't see myself, but I just know I felt very small in that moment. And I was like, and then she walked away. Then she like literally walked away. Like I didn't get a, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Like I spoke to this woman. I said hello to her. I introduced myself to her. I told her I was excited to come to her farm and I was potentially interested in volunteering. I didn't get a hello. I didn't get a thank you for coming. I got complete like disinterest. Like, why are you talking to me? Yeah, the food is good because that's what we do. I was so put off by that, y'all. I was so put off by that. And the part that really irritated me was like, I had Ubered to this place in particular, and like Ubers were surging because it was like rainy. And so I like fortunately beat the rain and I left early because I was like, wow, I felt so small, and I went out of my way to come here. I paid extra money because I was running late. So I was like, let me try to Uber. That might be easier for parking, you know, with like parking situation, because it was kind of like far out. It was not a good experience, and I will not be back there, which really sucks, but it's probably for the best because there are some places that are closer to where I live that I can volunteer. And I think that I would rather give my time and energy to the places that actually appreciate. I don't even want to say appreciate like my time and energy. That's important, but like are just genuinely courteous. And I just didn't understand that. Like, you're running a whole ship here, and every volunteer that I have interacted with has talked you up and has told me that I need to come talk to you, and I'm talking to you, and you are not living up to how they just described you. And then I even thought like, well, maybe she's a little overwhelmed because she's hosting an event right now, right? I'm making all kinds of excuses for this person's rude behavior until, you know, she said nothing to me like, oh, well, enjoy the rest of your time. She didn't say none of that. She just said, yeah, that's why we do it, when I told her the food was good. And then she walked away. And then when she walked away, she walked up to somebody that she clearly knew and was like, oh, hi. So I was like, oh, wow. So you are capable of saying hello and smiling. Anyway, I won't be back at that place. I was just really put off by that. But I have to like, I thought about it most of the day when I got home yesterday, because I was like, I cannot believe that that was the interaction with the person that has been talked up for literal months at this point. I had that conversation with that other person like 2 months ago, and she was telling like, oh yeah, check this person out, check their garden out, this and that, or check the farm out, this and that, they've done a great job. And then I meet her, and it's just like, it's like when you meet your hero. I don't know this person, I'm not calling her my hero, but like you meet your hero and then they're like a terrible person. That's how it felt. That's how I imagine that would have been. That's kind of how it felt. So yeah, I'm gonna put my energy into other people. I'm glad that that happened after I had this like really, really positive experience at the conference though, because there was just so much good last week that outweighed the little bad moment I had yesterday. And even like, she was just a tiny molecule of bad, right? Like everybody else that I interact with was very pleasant. I got out, I got some steps, you know, like I can't really be mad. I got some good food, some good farm fresh food, and was able to paint and like do art outside and like be amongst the people, and I beat the rain. So I'm proud of myself for going and not talking myself out of it. Although funny thing is, I think right when I called my Uber, I was like, oof, prices are up, because it was looking like very cloudy all day. It ended up raining later in the day after I got back home. But I was like, dang, Ubers are surging because of the rain right now. Maybe I just won't go. Maybe I won't go. I'm already running late, so maybe I won't go. I think that was someone trying to tell me like, yeah, it's not going to be worth the effort, or the, you know, it won't be worth your energy, any type of energy for you to go, because it's not going to be the experience that you think that it will be. That was my weekend. That's it. I'm going to finish washing these dishes, and I am going to sit here and enjoy the rest of my Sunday.